Welcome, everyone, to the Catholic Business Network celebration of leadership excellence. My name is Georgia Graves, and I'm very humbled and proud to be the president of the Catholic Business Network of Northern Virginia. Our organization is an independent, nonprofit group of individuals, professionals, and businesses who come together to represent community interests and advance Catholic morality, values, and ethics in both the workplace, our communities, and to support Catholic education.
I am wearing a Christmas tie. That's because I decided to show my faith in the Washington Capitals. Rock the red. I'm wearing red. And I think it's appropriate to wear a Christmas tie because I feel like I've been given a Christmas present with a national championship. And I just want everyone to understand that the Caps are the Dulles region team, right? So go Caps. Please join me in prayer as we give thanks for this occasion. In the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Dear Heavenly Father, we are so grateful that we have the opportunity to acknowledge these special leaders among us. We're grateful, Lord, that we live in a country that allows us to be free to exercise our religion and to live our faith. We're grateful that we live in a country where we're free to assemble as we are here today. And Lord, we are grateful for the leadership you've bestowed upon these individuals, not only those individuals who are being recognized today, but all the individuals present here who have unique talents and gifts that you bless them with so they can serve our community and serve your kingdom. Father, I thank you for the talents these 5 individuals have, that they've used these talents they've been blessed with to serve in the chambers of commerce and to serve in their communities for the greater good. Lord, we're grateful for the opportunities you give us in this region. We're grateful for the blessings you give us in this region. And as we enjoy the food that's been prepared, we ask your blessings upon those who prepared it. And we ask your blessings upon the food as we take it for nourishment. We ask it be used to give us strength so we can continue our service to you, our service to our families, and our service to our communities. And we praise you and thank you in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
It now gives me a great pleasure to introduce our panel moderator and a dear friend, Bruce Gimmel, Senior Vice President and Chief Marketing Officer for John Marshall Bank, and a past president of the Catholic Business Network.
How come it's so quiet? Gee whiz, everybody's red-eyed out there from late night last night. Thank you, Georgia, for those nice remarks, and welcome everybody, regardless of your denomination. We're happy to have you here. As Georgia mentioned, my name is Bruce Gimmel, Chief Marketing Officer for John Marshall Bank. And now it's my pleasure to introduce alphabetically our panelists, our CEOs. But I see here there's a inner office envelope with Bruce on it. So let's see what's in it. I'm not sure. Where'd this come from? Mitch Sproul, Toth Financial, Chairman of the Loudoun County Chamber of Commerce, and $1 attached to it. What is this?
I have no idea either.
$1, and look at this. It's horrible looking.
Feel free to keep that, Bruce.
This brings new meaning to photo bombing. You know, you just had to duck in here. I'm introducing the rest of the panelists now, if it's okay.
Do you think that goes in the collection, Matt?
We'll have to do that. Anyway, we're happy Toth Financial was able to come up with 3 tables, and we appreciate that, Mitch. So the first CEO that I would like to invite up to the stage is John Boylan. He's the CEO of the Dulles Regional Chamber of Commerce. You could just sit wherever you want. Jim Corcoran is the CEO for the Northern Virginia Chamber of Commerce. Tony, tell me if I get this right. Tony Howard is next. Is that right? He was saying that he was surprised I knew alphabet. Tony is the CEO for the Loudoun County Chamber of Commerce. We have Mark Ingrao, CEO of the Greater Reston Chamber of Commerce. And finally, we have Debbie Jones, who is the CEO for the Prince William Chamber of Commerce. This is meant just to be an informal discussion, things that you normally don't hear about at our normal Chamber of Commerce meetings. We're actually going to talk about religion. We're going to talk a little bit about politics probably, and those are the kind of taboo subjects that normally we try to stay away from. But I wrote down a few questions. And I wanted to start with Tony.
Of course you did.
What's that?
I said, of course you did.
Yes. So Tony, and then the rest of you, of course, join in. We're just going to pick on Tony first. But I wanted to know, your leadership has guided Northern Virginia businesses for a long time. And I think we'd like to kind of get an idea how you incorporate your Catholic faith into your role as a chamber president.
Sure, I'd like to, Bruce. First thing I'd like to do is thank you and thank Georgia and thank the entire Catholic Business Network for the great opportunity, really a privilege to be here with this great group this afternoon. Thank you for this honor. Somebody asked me the reason why I'm being honored, and I had to admit to him I didn't really know, except for the great fortune of having been born to Catholic parents. And so I want to thank you for that. I also want to thank you for the use of the photo up there. That's my high school prom shot. As many of you can attest, there's quite a few gray hairs, wrinkles, and pounds in that photo. So the next envelope you get will have much more than $1 in it, I promise you that.
What a deal.
So I'm actually stalling right now because we had a conversation the other day about how this conversation would go, and we talked about that question. And it's one I've been really thinking about since we had that talk 2 days ago, because how do you incorporate your faith into your daily activities at a secular organization? It's not like we come in every day at the Loudoun County Chamber of Commerce, open up the doors at 9 o'clock, and then say Mass, right? Isn't that true? We don't. And so how does it really manifest itself? And I think it has to do with the way we operate chambers these days, certainly how we try to operate the Loudoun Chamber. When I got into this business about 20 years ago, for the most part, I can't say exclusively for all chambers, because I don't know all chambers. There's many of them out there. I think there's several tens of thousands across the nation. It was by, for, and about business almost exclusively. And what I've seen happen, and what I've tried to incorporate into how the Loudoun Chamber operates, and we're not the only one that does this and does it well, some probably doing it better than us, is focus on the community and the focus on folks who are less fortunate than us in our community, and shine a spotlight on that. To do it in economic and business terms, because that's still our mission at Chamber of Commerce, and understanding how that quality of life and how it manifests itself for every single member of our community, and our obligation as citizens of that community to support even those that need that support the most, rather than just focused on the most prosperous amongst, is kind of the way I try to manifest that Catholic faith in my day-to-day operations.
Are you a New York Giant fan? With that accent, that's not a Loudoun accent.
Who wants to go next?
What is a Loudoun accent? Bruce, I can jump in on that too. I don't know if there's a particular order you want to go in.
Please.
And I've had this conversation many times when I interviewed people that were perhaps interested in coming to work at the chamber. And if you don't consider yourself a servant manager, the chamber business is not for you. And I think that ties in very well to my Catholic upbringing, that we're all here to serve others. It's not about others serving us, right? And I think there's a lot of people here, men and women, up here on the stage who spend a lot of evenings, a lot of early mornings out doing things. And if you want to be successful, if you really want to be a leader in this chamber community, you need to be serving others nonstop, 24 hours a day almost, in many cases. And it's not just 5 days a week either, right? It goes beyond that. So, and some people look at me and say, well, what do you mean by that? I just have to manage. And it says, no, the client comes first. The member comes first. those people in need come first. Improving the community come first, way before we celebrate ourselves. So it's really kind of funny for us to be up here doing that because we're used to serving others.
And that's why you are up here, because it's about time. So, John, you want to take Mark?
Yeah, I'll jump in on that. One of the things I'd like to think of when I think about what our chamber does for the communities, I'd like to say that we're a chamber with a social conscience. So there's a lot of issues out there that people have disagreements about, and I think that what I like to bring to the table is, being a consensus builder and being somebody who can sit down and try to find common ground with whatever that issue might be. So, when we talk about that at our chamber, we talk about how we're going to serve our members. But we do it with that in mind, that we are a chamber with a social conscience, and we represent business, absolutely. But we do it in a way where we can partner with the other community groups in our community and come out with a win-win. So when I come to work every day, I'm thinking to myself as I come to work, how do you find that win-win in everything and anything you do?
All right. Okay, so first of all, as any good chamber person would do, for some reason, Jim Elliott, who's my chamber my chairman, didn't get introduced, but so I'm going to introduce him because he did come up here. So Jim Elliott's here, and my and my chair-elect Betty Dean is also here today, and Betty will be chair July 1st. So now that I'm pretty sure that I have a desk and a job when I get back, I can continue. So I think along that same line, it is serving others. It's helping others. I got thinking about this too. Treating others like you like to be treated. A lot of when I interview someone, I say, you can't take, if you need to get the credit, this isn't the job for you. And quite frankly, I have. Some have slipped through the cracks and they needed to get the credit, and they aren't there anymore because it's just not that type of a job that you stand up in front and pat yourself on the back. And so what I love about what I do is that I've been able to maybe make differences in the lives of other people, along with my staff, along with our board. And I guess that all comes from, a good Catholic parent upbringing and just kind of understanding what your characteristics are, your integrity. A lot of that comes from things you learned early on in life because of the faith and because of being Catholic. So.
Okay, what can I say that hasn't been covered? But one of the things for me is the foundation. So like whether you're building a building or building a church, it's about the foundation. And so when I came into the chamber, I've been there just over a year now, the foundation for me was on 3 pillars. And hopefully my folks that have been in my meetings know them, right? Commerce, community, and communications. And we've recreated each of the committees, subcommittees underneath those 3 pillars. And commerce is about business. People typically think about chambers of commerce as being business-centered, but it can't be. It's got to be about the people. And that's why the community is so important. And Mark, you touched on that, and we've talked about it at length. That's where our workforce comes from. That's the communities we're going to evolve and change. It's got to be for the right reasons, and certainly my Catholic background comes to that. And then lastly is the communications piece. That's transmit and receive. It's not just telling the story, it's listening to the needs, listening to elected officials that have to make hard decisions on what they do with budgets, listening to different levels of communities. We have quite a few not-for-profits that are part of the Chamber of Commerce as well, and they have a place as well for any of the chambers that I'm aware of that we've talked about. So I'm really proud of what we've done for the foundation, and the Catholic Roots is certainly part of it.
Well, thank you all very much. First, commercial break here. These 5 folks told me the other day not to read their bios, so at each of your tables there are bios on everybody, so didn't want you to think that I was up here and forgot to do that. So I forget a lot of things these days, but that wasn't one of them. Jim, let's go to you. I want to talk clout. I'm sitting here with 5 CEOs of the largest chambers of commerce in Northern Virginia. Oftentimes we hear about the competitive nature among chambers of commerce, but so many of them have crossover membership. I know I'm on or my bank is on all of them, and I know other people do this, have the same thing. But let's talk collaboratively, how you all work together for the benefit of the business community in Richmond and elsewhere. Could you address that for us?
Absolutely. Before I do, could I take a commercial break as well? There's a guy, Mike Cooper, over here, and we forgot to introduce his boss. And I thought, Mike, maybe you could introduce your boss, Jack Potter, there, who runs the airport's authority. But Jack, thanks for being here today. And thanks for being about the biggest economic driver that we have in this region with the two airports. But talking about clout, and I don't ever talk about clout, to be honest with you. It's again, it's about doing, and you are respected and listened to because of who we represent. I will sit here and say I don't know that any of us five really have any clout. It's only because of the business organizations that choose to be members of our chambers that we can even represent them. And it's who you're representing that is heard, whether it's down in Richmond, in D.C., in one of the county or town governing bodies. So it's not about us, it's about those organizations. Now, having said all that, I will tell you, I've said many times, and I know there's the whole table over here that's probably heard me say this before, I would much rather have 50% of a success than 100% of a failure. Our most successful events, our most successful initiatives, our most successful campaigns have been when we partner, whether it's with the five of us here. You could extend that to Alexandria, Arlington, Fauquier, but we also go across the river to the Montgomery County and Prince George's Chamber and the Board of Trade, and you think we have a lot of organizations go into the city. They got the Federal City Council, the Board of Trade, the New Greater Washington Partnership, and that's all just one town. So you need to pick your partners where it's going to work the best, right? And I think there's no one here that has not partnered with another organization sitting here. And it's the only way you're ever going to be successful. And I think one of the most important things we accomplished this past year, and probably go back to 2013 with the transportation bill as well as a group, that 2013 transportation bill, these chambers up here took a lead on that even before the State Chamber of Commerce. I think with the Metro bill, Debbie, I don't know if you really got involved in that since Metro hasn't expanded to Prince William yet, but everybody else was involved in getting dedicated funding for Metro funding this year. And there were coalitions that were built all across this region. And again, I think it's a tremendous part of being successful is figuring out how to partner, who to partner with when, and being willing to partner with them at the appropriate times.
Tony, would you like to add to that?
Sure, absolutely. I wholeheartedly agree. Everything we do, we try to do in the spirit of partnership and collaboration. And so in and amongst ourselves and with other organizations in Loudoun County and across the region, it's just so much more effective. He brings so much more power to the argument. And you can even mention the most recent success of Medicaid expansion. A lot of business groups got behind that too as well from very early on. And folks that you wouldn't necessarily expect to, but saw it as a good business and economic reason. And it got done. And these things take a long time, by the way. The big transportation bill that was adopted in 2013. I started in the chamber business in 1999. There were already many chambers and other business organizations working to convince our senators and delegates in Richmond that we needed to invest in transportation infrastructure as an economic development advantage, and it took a long time. And we pushed the rock up the hill and rolled back on us more than once. That hurts, but we finally got it done. And people see that happen and kind of take for granted, but it took a significant amount of partnership and a significant amount of tenacity and perseverance to make that happen. It's going to continue going forward. And so with John and with Mark and the three other chambers, we have a formal partnership we call the Northern Virginia Chamber Partnership. We pool our resources and our energy and our ideas, and we've been going to Richmond now for 8-9 years. I think actually the Dulles Chamber and Loudoun Chamber initiated this almost 10 years ago. And there's no way that my organization could be anywhere near as effective, nor could he near as well afford it, if we weren't partnering with other organizations. So it's a necessity. It's not necessarily something we do because we're nice. We are nice sometimes. We really see it as an obligation because it allows us to do so much more than we could on our own.
Yeah, I actually, instead of cloud, I'd probably use the word powerful. And I think that that's really, as we collaborate, as we work together, we know that we have some power to get certain things done. And quite frankly, we will tap into one another. We're all very involved with the Virginia Chamber and the Virginia Association of Chamber of Commerce Execs. When something's happening in another part of the Commonwealth, they can call us, they can come to us, figuring out new boards or how to bring on new people into different chambers throughout the Commonwealth. I know that they come back to us and look at our leadership and look at the fact that we share. So one of the things I'm going to say about chamber work, I've been in chamber work a long time, and the part I love about it is that every idea is somebody else's idea, and we share that. If I want to learn how to do a program that they're doing in Reston, I call Mark, we sit down, and he shares the information. I mean, what other business in the whole world does that? And so I can call a chamber that's similar in the Midwest. I can call a chamber in Florida and ask, hey, I noticed a program you're doing. Could you share the information? They're going to send me the budget. They're going to send me how they actually did it. I mean, who works in an environment like that? We do, and that's what we like about it. I mean, quite frankly, that's what I've loved about it along the way. So,
yeah, and I would add that I look at the chambers as kind of connectors and chiefs. So the power or the clout we have is really brought to us by our members, and I really believe that our mission in life is to connect businesses with other businesses so they can grow, they can do business with each other. Because in a community, if you have a community stool and there's 3 legs of that stool and business is one of them, if that business stool isn't strong, business leg isn't strong, that stool falls apart. But that business stool is strong, it helps the other 2 legs of the stool, the nonprofit and the government sector. So, I think it's very vital for us to be that connector in chief so that we can connect businesses with other businesses. And oh, by the way, we connect businesses with other chambers as well. I've had many businesses come to me and say, hey, I'm in this area. I think I might want to join your chamber for this reason. And I would say, well, we'd love to have you join our chamber. Have you checked out the other chamber as well? Because this is a sweet spot for them. So I think, I don't give away members, but I certainly make sure that people are getting the ROI. And I think that comes from the clout that we get from our members. Our members, as Jim said, give us the clout. And every day, I think we should be those connectors and chiefs where we really try to make sure the business community is strong by connecting people, connecting one business to another business.
And last but not least, I thought we had tons of clout. That's why I did this. I got no clout.
You came from D.C., didn't you?
Man. Oh, well.
I thought it was all about playing golf and eating bonbons.
More golf. So that is exactly, I'm just coming up, as I said before, on a 1-year point. I have called these guys tons of times, right? So what do you do with the boards? How big should a board be? What are some ideas? What kind of bylaws? We've talked about so many things, late at night, early in the morning calls, and I really appreciate their help and support. They easily could have said, hey, you got it, you overlap us, good luck. But we've done that. In fact, we've sent, I've had people from Leesburg call me and go, did you know there's a Loudon chamber? Let me give you Tony's number, right, the young man. So it's a great story, and I think because we have the folks that we have, we end up with this great collaboration, and I've been excited to be part of it.
That's great. Well, you all, again, we've said this over and over again, but you deserve this recognition because you, as Georgia said in her opening remarks, you work so tirelessly for your membership. You put on events like this with your hard work staff, overworked staff, right, Mike? Right? Not many times have I ever seen where you all get the recognition you deserve, and we're so happy to be able to do this for you and that you're all available. We have a few minutes left before we get to the main event of award presentations, but why don't we take, Mark, a few minutes with everybody and tell us a little bit about what inspires you to excel in your daily work.
Well, this is going to sound like a cliche, but I actually do get up every morning and thank God that I do what I do. I'm blessed to be in a position where I can have great members and great board members who are over there on that table. Thank you for coming and supporting. I really wake up every day and thank God for that. But secondly, being a community steward, I mean, being that servant leader is what really drives me. I love connecting people to other people. I love to see the community grow. For me, it's all about everybody trying to find that win-win, and everybody succeeds. That may sound a little Pollyannish, but I really believe that we can do that. If we all think that way, if we all come to work every day and think, how can I help out the community? How can I be a better person today than I was yesterday? And how can I leave this world a better place than it was yesterday? I pray that every day when I come to work. And I think we were talking about the rosary the other day, and I have the rosary in my car, and I say the rosary on the way to work every day. Not because I like to pray, it's because I want to make sure I don't yell at the person when they cut me off. It's hard to do that when you're praying and you say, oh, Lord, yeah. But I got to start all over, right? That's what I said. If you do that, you got to start all over. But but again, I don't want to sound Pollyannish, but that's what I do every day. I wake up and I want to be the best community steward, the best servant leader I can be.
Obviously that's a great story. And we did talk about that. That's one of the things that, again, being in this room with the folks, being able to talk about your faith, being able to talk about and share the rosary, pretty special. I grew up, went to an all-boys high school. Some of my best friends are the guys that I started with, a long time ago. And in fact, one of them suggested a book. I was catching up. He was going through a career transition. Said, "Hey, I'm reading this great book by Matthew Kelly. Why don't you take a read?" And one of the techniques was to just sit down and say, "Hey, Lord, what do you think? Where should I do? What turn should I take?" I've been talking to someone about going back down to D.C. and working again, and Mark hopefully would have talked me out of it if I said yes. But so I went to daily mass. I'm at the St. Tim's 6:15, and there's only 100 people there every day. It's amazing. And so I sat there and said, "Lord, I'm just, what do you think? What should I do?" And as the priest finishes his homily, literally said, and that concludes his homily, he goes, "I do have another thought." And the thought was, how crazy would you be to go back and forth in this defense contracting all the way into D.C. and come back again? It was exactly what I was thinking about. So it was one of those inspiring moments that I found that said, what, I need to do something different, and this is the opportunity. So I do start the day thinking about those thoughts and trying to do the best that I can.
All right, geez. Okay, so I almost do everything like Mark, except I don't do the rosary, and I'm not really good at remembering to pray every day. So other than that, I just like him. I am very much a person of faith, and I'm a very optimistic person. Those that know me know that I always look at the glass full, and I want more, and I very rarely look at negative things. And oftentimes I wonder in this world as people spiral into negative thinking, and even myself, I caught myself in the last 10 years kind of getting into that. I realized, wow, if I'm this positive person and I feel this bad about it, I pray for those people who are already feeling bad about life and everything, and where are they today? So I like to share my gifts, and I share with by mentoring, I share by connecting people, and actually I think that is something that is throughout here. I am totally jazzed when I connect people, and I am energized when I can help and make a difference in a person's life or in a situation. And as we know, in this business, you're talking to people that run businesses. Their lives depend on that paycheck. Their lives depend on people coming in and working with them or serving them or not being cheated by other people. I mean, I hate to say it this way, but so I find that I do, in my own way, look above and say, we need help here, and how can you help me on this? And so I think that, I'm rambling a little bit, but bottom line is, I think that with as we was, as we look at what we do, making a difference in other people's lives, having a strong faith and having a strong family and a strong support group. And I've always looked at that, and it's a two-way street. If you help somebody, they're helping you, and I think it's an important part. I'm here today, brought my friends at the Benedictine Sisters of Virginia, and Sister Andrea, 20 years ago, was an Ambassador of the Year, I want you to know, because she was cranking in the members, but also what was happening is that she knew that marketing at Benedictine Sisters of Virginia, marketing the programs they were doing, the nonprofits they were starting, and making changes in the community was very valuable. And I remember one time we set up she probably did her first trade show with me, believe it or not. And so we set up the trade show, and I wouldn't have thought of this, and I didn't realize that, and thank you. And so to this day, they are extremely active in our chamber, and I very much appreciate it. So anyway, I've talked too much.
Are we still on the same question?
Oh, stop it.
Same. I was going to ask you.
I am scared to death that lightning is going to strike because I know it's going to hit me after hearing these three talk. I'm in trouble. Mark, I yell at the other drivers. Sorry. And but it's, I think that, the question was what keeps us excited and what keeps us going day in and day out when you come in. And there is no question in my mind that the greatness of these positions are the opportunities to meet the people that we do. The people that we work with are those people who care about driving our communities forward, whether that's the business community, the academic community, the nonprofit community, helping those people who can't help themselves. What greater people in life can you think to have the ability to work with? And I fear that I'll let them down. And that's what drives me.
Yeah, amen to that. Usually when you go last, you're fearful that the answer you gave has already been given, and it has been, but I'm going to give it anyway, because there's really no other answer. It's the people. I am really blessed to work with some fantastic folks. I'm going to begin by recognizing some folks who don't usually get it. My crazy staff. Can I have every member of the Loudoun Chamber staff that came here today to get a free lunch? Please stand. I said stand. And that's not even all of them, but they're great people who really deeply care about the Loudoun community, and they show it every single day in the way they treat our members, our guests, folks who come in through the door. Catherine works the front desk. She gets some pretty interesting calls and visitors, do we not? People who believe that chambers do just about everything under the sun, which is, I think, a good thing if they think so highly of us. If you ever came to one of our staff meetings and you were a management consultant, you would probably advise that the board of directors fire me right away because we're clearly doing everything wrong, but it seems to work, because they care about each other and they care about the chamber and the people we serve. But the other group of people I get to, I'm really, really fortunate and blessed to work with are the business people and the community leaders and the government leaders, the entrepreneurs amongst us, the folks that wake up every single day and have that thought that my colleagues here have expressed, which is, how can I make a difference? How can I make a positive difference in my business, for my people, and the community around it? I had a community member say the other day, business owner, I should say, who was growing his business, and it's fast-growing, very successful, making a lot of money, right? And he said, I had this realization that I need to be more focused on two things. One, the impact that the county is having on my business, but what about the impact my business is having on the county? And that was sort of emblematic of an attitude that I see throughout my chamber career, from my time at the Fairfax County Chamber and here at the Loudoun Chamber too as well, that all the folks that get involved, from our board members to rank and file members, they really do have this attitude of, I will be successful by spending a significant amount of my time, energy, and focus on making other people successful, and they themselves reap that benefits of their hard work and their selflessness, and they are successful financially, but spiritually, and I think they're better people for it too as well.
I think this is great. Did any of you, I thought that was great, Tony was able to introduce his staff. Is there, any of you all have staff here that you'd like to? Yeah, I think so.
Ask all the staff members to stand up.
Everybody. Any other staff? It's great. I tell you, you put on an event like this and you understand the work that goes into it, and you all are great. I've seen many of you in action over the years, so thank you all very much. Well, I think it's at that time now, Georgia, that we can, isn't it funny how they sat in alphabetical order? And that's how the awards are going to be presented. Okay, so John Boylan.
Thank you very much. So start the clock, 3 minutes. So here it is. This is the North Atlantic. It's dark. It's at night. We're flying. I'm on a KC-135 crew. We give air refueling gas to another airplane. The Russians are flying all around us trying to take a look and intercept our airplanes. We had an F-16 got a call. And if you don't know, F-16 has one person in it, and he was low fuel. Didn't have enough gas to get back to land. And he thought he'd have to ditch. North Atlantic, your life is not going to be very long to get somebody out there to test it. So we found him, refueled him. He did an emergency boom lash. I've never done that except one time in 20 years. And probably saved the airplane in his life. And we were so excited. Everybody was thanking us. It was fantastic. So we went to our aircraft commander and said, do you think we'll get an air medal? And he said, time out. We did our job. We did our job. And so the same thing's true for us today. We did our job. It represents you. I appreciate it, and I accept it on behalf of all the folks in the chamber. Thank you very much.
All right, Jim Corcoran.
Hey, I want to say thank you for all of you being here today, but particularly Bruce and Georgia for thinking of this, for doing this, for figuring out that we're all Catholic. That was probably a feat in and of itself. Joe, are you Catholic as well? Mm-hmm. Is every Northern Virginia Chamber executive Catholic? I don't know, but it would, Barbara, all of our favorite elected leaders are Catholic as well. So, and my congresswoman is Catholic as well. So it's a great place to be. But I just want to say thank you to everybody for doing this. Mike Forehand over there has been helping tremendously as I'm leaving the chamber world next week. And excuse me, it has been an honor to do this. And whether I had been with one of their chambers or the Northern Virginia Chamber, formerly the Fairfax County Chamber of Commerce, what an honor it has been to be able to say that I helped in this region. So I want to say thank you to all of you. You probably didn't hear me say that, but I did forget one person. I apologize for that. My beautiful wife, Kathy, over there. She's truly the spiritual leader in our house, so thank you, Kathy.
All right, Tony, have you figured it out? You're next. Tony Howell.
I feel a little bit like Alex Ovechkin because just like he, I didn't realize how heavy this was going to be when I picked it up. I have to say, offer my sincerest, my time up, this microphone wants to leave me. I'll just hold it in place until I'm done 20 minutes from now. I want to say thank you again to Georgia and to Bruce and to everyone from the Catholic Business Network. It really means a lot. It means a lot to me, a considerable amount to have this opportunity, really this privilege to be recognized today. I also want to thank my chamber colleagues for your friendship, for your guidance, for your help, and your support. What Debbie said before and others as well, it absolutely is true. We absolutely rely on each other. So many of the great ideas and policies and other things that I've incorporated into my work at the Loudoun Chamber, I freely admit I have stolen. Not stolen in the sinful biblical way. This was the kind of what we call best practices, which is legalized. But many a times because folks were really generous in offering me their guidance and their support, and so I want to thank them for that. The other group of folks I want to thank, because it does feel a little bit odd to receive this award, because as you know, or maybe you don't, I get paid to be here. So this is my job. I had somebody ask me just today, when you're not doing the chamber thing, what do you do? And I say the same answer I always give. Usually I'm sleeping, because it takes most of our waking hours. But I'm not going to ask you to stand. I just want to ask you to accept my thanks, my gratitude, all the chamber volunteers, the leaders, the members of the board. I'll just mention one individual, Mitch Sproul, Loudoun Chamber is overrepresented today because he and his colleagues at Toth Financial were very generous in providing them the opportunity to be here. So we have many chamber members, board members, staff members, as you know, if you met them, and they're all here today to support me. And that means a lot because they don't just support me at a lunch, they support me 365 days throughout the year. So if I'm successful, it's only because of them. So thank you.
Mark Ingrayo, you're next.
So I don't know what else to say. You all set the bar so high, I don't think I have anything else to say. But it was 9 years ago, almost at the end of this month, that I was hired at the Reston Chamber. And it was, without question, one of the most enjoyable, and it has been one of the greatest times of my life. I used to be on the board of a number of boards. One of them was Tony's. Before he was there, I was on the board of the Loudoun Chamber. And when I had the opportunity to leave the volunteer side and come to be staffer, it was really a blessing. This community of Reston that we represent and the greater Reston area is a unique community. And because of that, I mentioned earlier, being a community steward and being a servant leader in a chamber that loves to give back, that's what really just jazzes me up and gets me up. So I want to thank my board, who's here, some of my board members are here, all of my members. If not for them, we just would not have the community we have. You know, I came to the chamber world, and Tony was already in the chamber world, and what we set up here is really true. We really do rely on each other. I can remember calling Tony, I had a speed dial there for a while. I would call Tony just about every other day. What do you do for this? What do you do for that? So we really are very collaborative, and that's another reason why I think we all do this. So I just want to thank the Catholic Business Network, Georgia, you, and Bruce. Where's Bruce? Oh, he's behind me. That's a real problem. I think this is a great organization, and I think that people who are Catholic should get more involved with it, and it should really proliferate, because what we do in our personal life can definitely be a sign and a signal to people what they do out in the secular life. So thank you very much. I appreciate it.
We save beauty for last. Come on over here, Debbie. Yeah. Debbie Jones.
We're all on this side. Move everybody's legs and over. These guys, of course, now I never thought that having a J name, I would be last, right? So anyway, but so far, I was thinking when John was speaking, wow, do I have a good story like, whoa, no, I don't have a good story like that. And I got kind of nervous when everybody else was talking. Hey. And however, what I do want to say is I very much thank all of you. Georgia and Bruce I just met today, didn't have his name tag on, really didn't know who he was at first, but then I recognized his voice from our phone conversation 2 days ago, where he was totally teasing Tony the whole time. So they go back a long way. Anyway, I do want to take a moment to thank my mom is here with me today. Where else do you get the foundation of who you are? And so, born and raised Catholic, so, you know, I have lived it my life, and I very much appreciate the characteristics and the character and the integrity, all the things that I've learned through a great family and lots of friends. So, geez, getting weird now. And my husband's here today too. Not that's getting weird, but my husband's here today, and I appreciate that. And a lot of my staff and people, you know, Brendan used to work for me until about a month ago, and a lot of those good things that are happening. I'm so thrilled having so many of you here today, and I just am, I was honored when Georgia called. I kept saying, what? Why? What are you doing again? And how's it affect me? And then when I was just amazed that my friends here were all Catholic. I knew Mark was. I just had known that a long time. But the rest, it just was all of a sudden made me think how I use the word powerful, but just how amazing that is. I do believe it is how we were brought up. It is what we believe in, the faith that we have, the hope that we have, and the optimism that we have. And I'd like to count that as my upbringing and my beliefs. So again, I do thank you all. And since I'm the last one, I should have made it shorter. But anyway, thank you so much.
We're right on time. How about that? I did want to make one comment, Debbie, about the not wearing my name tag. Years ago, somebody mentioned to me, I so much want to be somebody, and I was told that if you have to wear a name tag, you're nobody. So if you're somebody, then they know you without your name tag. So I'm walking around here hoping that somebody will just say, "Hey, you're Bruce." Obviously, it didn't. Well, it did work. You saw my picture. So I'll turn it over to Georgia for her arrivederci comment.
Thank you, Bruce. Please give Bruce a round of applause.
All right, Bruce Campbell, why was it so important for you to be here today?
Well, it's important to recognize the chamber presidents and their CEOs, actually, who give so much of their time and energy to helping others to be exposed, to give others recognition. And it's time that we give the same recognition to those who spend so much time helping others advance in their businesses. So it just meant a lot to give them the recognition, the awards, the time to talk about what their faith and what energizes them to go to their daily work.
What inspired you a lot about this afternoon event?
Well, what inspired me was that most of the time these people work tirelessly with their staffs, and they don't get the recognition. So I know I'm repeating myself, but it's time that they get the recognition that they deserve.
Congresswoman Barbara Comstock, privileged to have you here. My question is here about how are we doing as a region in terms of using faith to make our decisions?
Well, it was wonderful to be here with the Catholic Business Network, honoring all of our chamber leaders in the region who just happen to have a large group of them who are Catholic. And it was wonderful to listen to them because you hear, and you do see this, I see this in all of our chambers, how they're giving back. They really understand to whom much is given, much is expected. And when you go to your chamber events, you are always seeing our philanthropic community partnered closely, highlighted, and that giving back is something that is really a part that's entrenched in our region, and I think that is a big part of our faith community. So it's wonderful. It's something we all need to be reminded of, and these gentlemen, and we did have one lady too, so just really do exemplify living their faith.
What is the Connector-in-Chief? Tell us about that.
So the Connector-in-Chief is, it comes from an old baseball saying, which is umpire-in-chief, which is the leader of the umpiring group. When you're training them, you train them, and then you take them to tournaments and you run them through the tournament. So I took that term and I applied it to my work here. It's simply connecting people with one another. I think that's really what I get up every day to do. I get up to say, how can I connect one business to another so they can both grow and they can benefit from knowing each other?
Do you teach Connectors-in-Chief to other people?
I actually do. I actually teach. I teach how to network, and how to, how to be a good young professional to the young professionals group in Arlington County. And we talk about being Connectors-in-Chief, even as a young professional. They know people that other people don't know, and you can make that connection whether you're seasoned or young. You can make that connection. So yeah, I actually teach that as a course with the Leadership Center of Excellence in Arlington.
As a manager, I've always put myself as a servant manager. And when I think about what that means, it means I'm here to serve others. So I believe that myself and any team that I represent is only going to be successful if those individuals who we are serving are successful. So thus the term servant manager is one that I really do believe in, because I would never want to put myself before somebody else in order to be successful.
What qualities makes a service manager? What qualities must you have?
I don't know there's just any one quality that you must have. It's just, when you think about it, it really is about putting others before you. So making sure that they have been satisfied with their needs, their desires, their wants in order to be successful.
John Bolin, so glad to have you here. Why is collaboration so important?
Oh, thanks for asking that question. Collaboration actually makes us more powerful. So just about the power of working together as a group and team. When I grew up, I always liked working by myself and kind of focus on our problem. As I got older and started working in the workplace, working together with folks, always stronger. It's not flying with one person, that four-person cockpit I flew in. It's with having all four working together is so powerful. And we do that at the Dulles Chamber because we create commerce, community, and communication that allows us to focus on one thing but to come together as a full chamber to make us much more powerful for the growth of this whole region.
Tony Howard, so great to have you here. What is the importance of having partners? Why is it important?
Oh, I believe it's absolutely essential, particularly in our business, but really in most businesses. It becomes a force multiplier. So one organization or one person can only get so far. But when you bring other partners on board, you're able to achieve at even exponentially higher level than possible. And so in our world, the Loudoun Chamber couldn't be effective going to Richmond to lobby on certain issues because we don't necessarily have the resources, financial, human resources. But when we partner, as we do with 5 other chambers, we bring more money, we bring more manpower, more woman power, more ideas, more insight to the equation, and we become more than just 6 times more effective. I think we're 600 times more effective than we could be if we went alone.
And what has been one of the examples that you've had of your collaboration? What were you able to accomplish?
So one of the things, we just had recently a couple of fires that were pretty devastating in the Centerville area, and they called us and said, "Can you help us?" And so literally I pulled out our database and called hotels. We were able to get hotels. I had members that made meals, that took care of folks. I found trucks to be able to move equipment. So we've been integral behind the scenes to help out right away and helping the community, as people have heard me talk about. It's not just commerce as business. This is commerce, community, and communication coming together. And that was a great example. Thanks for asking that question.
How do you pick a partner?
Boy, that's a good question, right? I've been married for 23 years. I think sometimes being fortunate is a big part of it. It's like anything else in life. You really have to do your due diligence. You really have to know the partner as best as possible to understand. Do you share the same values, the same morals, the same importance things in life? And do you think that you can work together well? That's really essential. Can you actually be a cohesive unit? You can share the same values, the same ideas, and the same priorities, but if you're not really a cohesive unit and you can't really work together, you don't get that exponential power that you're seeking. So it's like anything else in life. You do the best you can and gather as much information as possible, and most of the time your instincts and your due diligence pay off. Sometimes they don't. You know what you do? You figure it out soon and you move on.
Debbie Jones, privileged to have you here. What does it mean to be a person of faith?
What does it mean to be a person of faith? For me, it means that I always have someone and something I can believe in. It is that there is a higher power, and I'm not the final say on things, and that when I look for that inwardly for that faith, it is looking at heavens and saying, I need your help. And but also faith that people do the right things, and faith that the right decisions are made along the way. And, on a day where you're not sure why someone's acting the way, there's usually something else in their life that's going on. So faith that, and I know faith and hope, those kind of go hand in hand to me. So anyway.
Has faith changed the way you do business?
I think it is, I don't think it's changed the way I do business. I think I've always done business this way. I grew up in a faithful house. I grew up with a supportive family. I've always maintained supportive friends. And so it's really living your life and treating people the way you want to be treated. And so I think if you live that way, good things come to you. So.
Georgia Grace, this was an amazing event. Tell us about putting it together and why did you recognize those 5 leaders?
Well, I work in the Chambers of Commerce all the time, and I know all of these individuals personally. And the one thing that I've realized is they're all Catholic. And it's not necessarily that it's about Catholicism, it's about spiritual connection and good moral upbringing and leadership qualities that we need in our community. And it's how the chambers are successful. And it's at the core of every one of those individuals. And I'm just so proud to be able to recognize them because normally they're recognizing other people. So it was really a phenomenal event. I think what was so important is anyone in the room saw how touched they were and how you really, they opened up from inside out to really tell you about their faith in the right way. And it was all tied to business and success and doing the things necessary to guide this region. So we're very happy that it worked and everybody was pleased.